Lena never imagined that loneliness could live inside a shared bed. From the outside, her life looked calm and stable. She had been married to Mark for 9 years. They owned a neat apartment on the 10th floor of a busy city building. Matching coffee mugs, framed wedding photos on the hallway wall, and a couch they picked together on sale during their 2nd year of marriage. Everything looked normal. Maybe even happy. But normal and happy were not always the same thing. In the early years, their home had been loud with laughter. They used to stay up late talking about dreams. Mark once told her he wanted to start his own business. Lena wanted to learn Italian and travel to Florence. They would cook together, sometimes badly, and end up ordering pizza at midnight. Then even silence felt warm. It felt shared. Now the silence felt different. It felt heavy. Mark worked long hours at a finance company downtown. At first, Lena admired his dedication. He wanted promotions. He wanted security for their future. She supported him fully. She told friends proudly, "He worked so hard for us." But slowly, work stopped being something he did. It became who he was. He started bringing his laptop to bed. He answered emails during dinner. His phone buzzed constantly, and he always checked it. Lena worked at a small marketing firm. Her job was steady, not exciting, but not terrible either. She talked to clients, managed projects, met deadlines. Some days were stressful, but she handled them. The problem was not her job. The problem was coming home after a long day and feeling like she was alone even when Mark was there. One evening, she made his favorite meal, grilled chicken with lemon sauce and roasted vegetables. She even lit a small candle on the table, hoping to create a soft mood. When Mark walked in, he looked tired but polite. "Smells good," he said, loosening his tie. She smiled. "I thought we could eat together tonight. No TV?" He nodded, but 5 minutes into dinner, his phone lit up. He glanced at it, hesitated, then picked it up. "Sorry, just one quick reply." She watched him type. The candle burned quietly between them. After 10 minutes, she took a slow breath. "Can it wait?" He didn't look up. "It's important." The word important echoed in her mind. She wanted to ask, "Am I important?" But she didn't. Instead, she finished her meal in silence. When he finally put the phone down, the moment had already passed. This became routine. Small disappointments, small silences, nothing dramatic, nothing explosive, just a steady drift out at night. Lena often lay awake beside him. Mark would fall asleep quickly, exhausted from work. She would stare at the ceiling, listening to the soft hum of city traffic outside. She tried to remember the last time he had asked her how she truly felt, not how was work. "But are you happy?" She couldn't remember. One Saturday morning, she suggested they go for a walk in the park like they used to. "It's sunny," she said gently. "We haven't been out together in a while." Mark rubbed his forehead. "I have a report due. Monday, maybe next week?" Next week rarely came. Lena began to feel invisible, not unloved. Mark was not cruel. He did not shout. He did not cheat. He paid bills on time. He remembered her birthday. He hugged her before leaving for work. But his hugs felt automatic, like habits instead of feelings. One afternoon at the office, Lena sat at her desk staring at her computer screen. Her shoulders ached. She had been tense for weeks. Her coworker, Jasmine, noticed. "You look stressed," Jasmine said. "When was the last time you did something for yourself?" Lena gave a small laugh. "I don't know. There's a new spa near my apartment," Jasmine continued. "They do amazing massages. You should try it. Just relax for once." The idea sounded simple, harmless. Lena nodded. "Maybe I will." That evening, she mentioned it casually to Mark while he scrolled through emails. "I'm thinking of booking a massage this week. My back's been hurting." "Yeah, you should," he replied without looking at her. "Take care of it. Take care of it." The words felt strange. She wondered when he had last asked what was causing the tension in her back or her heart. The next few days moved quickly. Work deadlines, grocery shopping, laundry, small talk. On Thursday afternoon, Lena finally walked into the spa. The building was modern but warm. Soft music played in the background. The air smelled like lavender and eucalyptus. The lighting was gentle, not too bright. It felt like stepping into a different world, one that moved slower than her own. At the front desk, a receptionist greeted her kindly. "Welcome. First visit." "Yes," Lena said, suddenly nervous. She filled out a short form and waited. Phone buzzed. A message from Mark, running late tonight. "Don't wait for dinner." She stared at the screen for a moment before locking it. Of course, a tall man in his early 30s stepped into the waiting area. "Lena." She looked up. "Yes." "Adrian, I'll be your therapist today." His voice was calm, professional, nothing unusual. He led her down a quiet hallway to a softly lit room. "Any specific areas bothering you?" he asked. "My shoulders," she replied. "They always feel tight. Stress tends to settle there." He said gently. She gave a small smile. "Guess I've had some of that." As the session began, Lena closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she focused only on her breathing. The room was quiet except for soft instrumental music. Adrian worked carefully, asking about pressure and comfort. He spoke only when necessary, but when he did speak, he listened to her answers. Halfway through the session, he asked casually, "Do you work long hours?" "Yes," she said. "Marketing." "That can be demanding." "It can," she replied. "But it's manageable." There was a pause before she added, "Everything is manageable, I guess." He didn't push. He simply said, "Sometimes manageable isn't the same as fulfilling." The sentence surprised her. It was not dramatic, not personal, yet it felt direct. She didn't respond, but her mind stayed on those words. When the session ended, Lena felt lighter. Not just physically. Something inside her had softened. She sat up slowly. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "You're welcome," Adrian replied. "Try to stretch during the week. And don't carry more than you have to." She almost laughed. At that, if only it were that simple. After paying at the front desk, she stepped back into the busy city street. Cars honked. People rushed by. The world felt loud again, but she felt quiet. That evening, she returned home. The apartment was dark. Mark had not arrived yet. She reheated leftovers and ate alone at the kitchen counter. Later, when he finally walked in, he looked exhausted. "How was your day?" he asked automatically. "It was fine," she answered. He nodded and went to shower. She considered telling him about the spa, about how peaceful it felt, about that strange sentence that stayed in her mind. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the way he moved quickly from room to room, already thinking about tomorrow. They went to bed without much conversation. Lena lay awake again. But this time her thoughts were different. She realized how rare it had become for someone to give her full attention, even in a professional setting. How rare it was to feel listened to without interruption. She didn't want another man. She didn't want to betray her marriage. She simply wanted connection. The next morning, she booked another appointment for the following week. It felt harmless, just self-care. But deep down, she sensed something shifting, because for the first time in a long time, she was not only aware of her loneliness, she was beginning to question it. And once a question enters the heart, it rarely leaves quietly. The second appointment came faster than Lena expected. The week had been long, filled with meetings, deadlines, and quiet dinners eaten across from a glowing screen. Mark had barely looked up from his laptop most nights. She had stopped asking him to. It felt easier to move around him than to try to reach him. On Thursday afternoon, she walked back into the spa. This time, she was not nervous. She was aware of her heartbeat, aware of the reason she had come. It wasn't just the pain in her shoulders anymore. It was the silence at home, the space between words, the way she felt smaller each day. Adrian greeted her with the same calm expression. "Good to see you again, Lena." The fact that he remembered her name without checking a file made something warm flicker inside her. "Good to be back," she replied. Inside the room, the soft music played again. The lights were low. Everything felt steady, predictable, safe. "How have your shoulders been?" he asked. "Still tight?" she said. Then, after a short pause, she added, "It's been a busy week." He nodded. Busy can sit heavy on the body. She lay down and closed her eyes. As the session began, she felt herself relax more quickly than last time. Her breathing slowed. Her thoughts softened. Adrian worked carefully, focused, professional. There was no rush in his movements. While he asked, "Did you get a chance to stretch like we talked about?" She gave a small laugh. "Not really. Most people don't," he said lightly. "We take care of everything else first." The sentence landed deeper than he probably meant it to. We take care of everything else first. She thought about her days: work, groceries, laundry, remembering birthdays, planning meals, supporting Mark's career, smiling at neighbors, keeping peace, being understanding, being patient. When was the last time someone had taken care of her? "You're holding more tension on the right side today," Adrian said gently. "I always do," she replied. "Is there a reason?" She hesitated. There was no reason to share personal things. This was a professional space, but the quiet felt open, inviting. "I guess I'm just tired," she said, "physically." He asked. She swallowed. "Not only." There was a brief silence. He didn't push, he didn't ask for details. Okay, simply continued his work. But the silence didn't feel empty. It felt respectful. By the end of the session, Lena felt clear-headed, like someone had opened a window in a closed room. When she sat up, Adrian handed her a glass of water. "Make sure you rest tonight," he said. She nodded. "I'll try." At the front desk, she surprised herself by booking 2 more appointments. In advance, that night, she came home to find Mark already there. He was sitting on the couch reading emails on his phone. "You're home early," she said. "Meeting got canceled," he replied without looking up. She stood there for a moment. "I went back to the spa today." He responded. "It really helps," she added, hoping for more reaction. "That's good," he said. That was it. She walked into the kitchen, her chest tight. She didn't need excitement. She didn't need jealousy. She just wanted interest. A question. Instead, she felt like background noise. The following week moved quickly again. Lena found herself thinking about the spa more than she expected. Not in a romantic way, in a quiet way. It had become a place where she existed fully for 1 hour. No expectations, no roles. Just herself. During her 3rd visit, Adrian seemed slightly more relaxed. Still professional, but more familiar. "Have you been sleeping better?" he asked. "Not really," she admitted. "Stress." She nodded. He paused for a moment before speaking. Sometimes stress comes from things we don't say. Her heart skipped. She stared at the ceiling. And what if saying them changes everything? "Sometimes change is necessary," he replied softly, "even if it's uncomfortable." She didn't respond. But she carried those words with her. After the session ended, she didn't leave immediately. She sat on the edge of the table thinking. "Can I ask you something?" she said carefully. "Of course. Do people ever confuse relaxation with something else?" He understood the question instantly. "It can happen," he said calmly. "When someone feels heard or cared for, it can feel stronger than it is." She felt her face grow warm. "I don't want to cross lines," she said quickly. "You're not," he replied. "You're just human." The word human echoed in her mind the entire drive home. That evening, she found Mark in the kitchen for once. He was pouring himself a drink. "Long day?" she asked. "Always," he said. She looked at him, really looked at him. The lines near his eyes had deepened. His shoulders were tense too. He looked tired. "Worn? Are you happy?" she asked suddenly. He blinked, surprised. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one?" He sighed. Lena, I'm just busy. It doesn't mean anything. It means something to me, she said quietly. He rubbed his forehead. Can we not do this tonight? And just like that, the moment closed. She went to bed early. He stayed up. The space between them felt wider than ever. Days later, during her fourth appointment, Lena felt something shift again. Not because of anything Adrian did, but because of what she felt. She realized she was looking forward to his words, to his calm voice, to the way he noticed small details. How's your week been? He asked. Complicated, she replied. Do you want to talk about it? She hesitated, then nodded. She spoke about feeling unseen, about trying to reconnect, and failing, about how exhausting it was to pretend everything was fine. He listened quietly, no judgment, no dramatic reactions. When she finished, he said gently, It sounds like you're lonely. The word hit her harder than she expected. Lonely? She had avoided that word for months. I'm married. She whispered, You can still be lonely, he replied. Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them away. I don't want to replace anything. She said quickly, You're not replacing anything, he answered. You're searching for what's missing. The truth of that statement scared her because he was right. On her way home, her thoughts raced. She wasn't in love. She wasn't planning betrayal. But she felt connected. And that connection felt dangerously comforting. That night, Mark didn't come home until after midnight. She was awake, sitting on the couch in the dark. You're up? He asked. I was waiting for what? For us, she said softly. He looked confused. She stood up, her voice steady. I feel like I'm disappearing, Mark. He frowned. What does that mean? It means I talk and you don't hear me. It means I try and you're somewhere else. He looked frustrated. I'm doing this for our future. But what about now? She asked. Silence filled the room. He didn't have an answer. She realized then that the ache inside her wasn't about Adrian, it was about neglect. Emotional neglect that had grown slowly, quietly, like a crack in glass. And cracks, if ignored, always spread. The next time she walked into the spa, she felt different, more aware of the edge she was standing on. After the session ended, she remained seated. I don't want to depend on this place, she said honestly. Adrian nodded. Then don't. She looked at him, searching his face for something more. A sign, a step forward. But he remained steady. You deserve connection, he said. But you deserve it in the right place. Her chest tightened in that moment. She understood something clearly. This wasn't a love story. It was a warning. A wake-up call. She left the spa that day with a heavy heart because she finally understood what she had been feeling. She wasn't falling for another man. She was starving for attention. And unless she faced that truth at home, she knew the distance in her marriage would only grow deeper. Lena walked into the spa that Thursday with a tension in her chest she couldn't shake. It wasn't physical anymore. Her shoulders felt lighter than last week, but her heart felt heavy. She knew she had been coming here for reasons deeper than aches and knots. She didn't want to admit it to herself, but Adrian had become a quiet presence in her life. Someone who listened without judgment, someone who noticed small details she thought no one cared about. She almost felt guilty for admitting how much his attention mattered, how much she craved it. She had come seeking relief. But what she found was reflection, a mirror to the loneliness she had been avoiding at home. Adrian greeted her with a gentle smile. Good to see you, Lena. How have you been this week? She paused, thinking about her life over the past 7 days, the silent dinners with Mark, the long hours at work, the quiet drive home through streets that felt familiar yet strangely empty. She told herself to keep it simple. Busy, tired, she said. But even as she spoke, she felt the weight of what remained unsaid. He didn't push. He nodded, listening. That alone was enough to make her chest tighten. She realized she had been starved of someone really listening for far too long. The massage began. Adrian's hands moving expertly along her back, working out tension she didn't even know she carried. But while he worked on her body, Lena's mind wandered. She thought about her marriage, about how Mark had been distant for months, maybe years. He wasn't unkind. He didn't yell. He didn't cheat. He just drifted. His attention was elsewhere, buried in work, emails, meetings, obligations. And she had stayed quiet, pretending not to notice, pretending that stability was enough. But it wasn't enough. It had never been enough. She realized she was angry not at Mark, not really, but at the way love could quietly slip away unnoticed. Replaced by routines and obligations, Adrian asked a question. Gentle and careful. Have you been talking to him about how you feel? He didn't mean it as judgment. His voice was calm, steady, compassionate. She shook her head slightly. I've tried, she admitted, but he's always busy, or tired, or distracted. I don't want to nag. I don't want to push, and I feel like I'm disappearing. Adrian didn't respond immediately. He let the words hang in the air. Lena felt relief and shame at the same time, relief that someone acknowledged her feelings, shame that she had been carrying them alone for so long. It sounds like you're searching for connection, he said finally, and his words hit her like a mirror. Not a seduction, not a temptation, just an observation. She wasn't looking for Adrian. She was looking for attention, understanding, a sense that she existed fully to someone. And she realized that the person she wanted to see that in was Mark, her husband, the man she had married 9 years ago. When the session ended, Lena lingered in the room. She didn't feel the urgency to leave that she usually did. She sat on the edge of the massage table, thinking. Adrian cleaned the area quietly, giving her space. She looked at him and said, I don't want to depend on this place. I can't. He nodded slowly. Then don't. The connection you're looking for, it's not here. You deserve it where it belongs. Those words stayed with her the entire drive home. Where it belongs. Not in quiet hours with a professional stranger who listened. Not in fleeting words that felt meaningful for a moment. At home, with Mark. That thought was both terrifying and hopeful. She didn't know if Mark would hear her, if he would respond, if he could be the person she needed again. But she knew she had to try. When she walked through the apartment door, Mark was there as usual. Sitting on the couch with his laptop open, a half-empty cup of coffee at his side. She hesitated. The words had been rehearsed in her mind 100 times, and now that she was standing there, they felt fragile, heavy, impossible. Mark, she said softly. He looked up, surprised. Yes, I need to talk, she said. His eyebrows rose slightly. About what? He asked, cautiously. Lena took a deep breath. About us. About how I've been feeling. She didn't know if he would understand. She didn't know if he would listen. But she had to say it at first. He seemed confused. His expression was blank, unreadable. I don't understand, he said slowly. What do you mean? I mean, she began, her voice shaking slightly. I feel invisible. Feel like I'm here, but you're somewhere else. I talk and you don't hear me. I try to connect and you're distracted. I'm not angry, not blaming you. I don't want to disappear in my own life. Mark stared at her and she saw something flicker in his eyes, confusion, guilt, realization. He closed his laptop slowly and leaned back against the couch. I didn't know, he admitted. I thought I was providing. I thought I was doing what was right. His voice was quiet, almost apologetic. Lena swallowed the lump. In her throat, providing is not enough, she said softly. I need you here, with me, present. For a moment, the apartment was quiet. Not the kind of silence that feels cold or distant, but a stillness that allowed words to exist fully. Lena realized this was the first time in months, maybe years, that they were really speaking to each other. She didn't yell. She didn't accuse. She didn't demand. She simply spoke her truth. And for the first time, Mark listened. Really listened. He ran his hands over his face, then nodded. I've been distracted. I didn't realize how much I'm sorry. His words were simple, but they carried weight. I don't want you to feel that way, he added. I don't want us to drift apart. Tears stung Lena's eyes, but she blinked them away. She wanted to cry, but she also wanted to feel the strength in this conversation. I don't want to drift apart either, she said. She sat down beside him. The couch felt small but warm for the first time. In weeks, maybe months, she felt him there not just physically, but emotionally. They talked for hours. Not about schedules, bills, or errands. They talked about how they felt, about their fears, their frustrations, the small disappointments they had ignored. Lena told him about the emptiness she had carried, about the moments when she felt unseen. Mark admitted that he had been so focused on work that he hadn't realized she was fading into the background. They shared laughter at small memories and sadness at what they had lost over time. There were no dramatic revelations, no shouting matches, no ultimatums. Just honesty, raw and soft and careful. By the end of the night, something had shifted. It wasn't perfect. Their problems were still there. Work deadlines still loomed. Life would still be busy. But a bridge had been built across the silence. They had found the courage to speak and listen in equal measure. In the following weeks, they took small steps to reconnect. Phones were left. In another room during dinner, walks after work became routine. Evenings without television became a small ritual. Lena noticed Mark asking questions about her day, not as a formality, but with real curiosity. She realized she had been craving attention. But what she really wanted was presence, and Mark was beginning to offer it. Lena stopped going to the spa weekly. Not because Adrian had done anything wrong, not because she no longer enjoyed professional care, but because she no longer needed emotional validation outside her marriage. Her body still ached sometimes, but the emotional weight had lifted. She realized that the true source of relief had always been communication, honesty, and connection with the person she loved. One rainy evening, months later, Lena and Mark stood on their balcony, wrapped in a shared blanket, watching the city lights reflect in puddles on the street below. Mark reached for her hand without asking. She felt it fully warm, reassuring, a reminder of the life they were building together again. It wasn't a dramatic gesture. There was no music swelling in the background, no fireworks, just a hand reaching for hers. A small but profound acknowledgement of presence. Lena leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the weight of months of neglect slowly fade. She thought about the spa, about Adrian, about the lessons she had learned. Emotional connection wasn't found in professional attention or fleeting moments of being noticed by strangers. It was cultivated, nurtured, fought for, and sometimes almost lost. Sometimes, she realized, love doesn't fade because of betrayal. It fades because it is ignored. Neglect builds quietly, like a shadow creeping into a room. But it can be repaired slowly, patiently, gently, through honesty, through listening, through presence. Mark kissed her forehead softly, a small gesture that spoke volumes. Lena felt a quiet joy, not grand or dramatic, but real. It was the joy of being seen, the joy of being present with someone who mattered. She knew their marriage wouldn't always be perfect. Life would continue to test them, push them, distract them. But now they had learned a vital lesson. Connection is the heartbeat of love. Neglect is its quiet enemy. And attention, even in small, consistent doses, can rebuild what seems lost. Lena realized that the spa had been more than just a place to relieve physical tension. It had been a mirror showing her the emptiness she had tolerated, the loneliness she had buried under routines and obligations. Adrian had been a guide without intending to be, helping her see her truth. And that truth had led her home, not to drama, not to infidelity, not to fantasy, but back to Mark. Back to the person who, despite years of distraction, still mattered. Most months later, Lena looked at their framed wedding photo in the living room. The smiles looked small but sincere. They had been careless once, drifting apart. But care could be renewed.